Hey everyone, it's Colin, how's it going? We're probably all familiar with hardware mods for retro game consoles. This time, let's take a look at some brand new software for those platforms as well. Bit of a quicker casual video for you this time. A viewer named Rob reached out. He explained that he's a musician, but also is really interested in retro gaming, specifically Nintendo's Game Boy series. And he wanted to know if I was willing to check out his latest releases. He managed to kind of put all those talents together in a really interesting way, where he's got a selection of Game Boy titles that are available now that he produced himself, but they all have kind of an interesting musical element to them, not just gaming. First impressions are really good, actually. All of these came in nice quality cardboard cases. They were shrink wrapped, full color, glossy. They include inserts and instruction manuals and all sorts of little goodies, QR codes for additional content downloads. And the cartridges themselves feel really high quality. Obviously, these are, newly produced cartridges, but they feel good. They've got high quality color labels on them. Overall, this is really kind of bringing me back to decades ago when I would buy brand new Game Boy games, and these are going to be hard to distinguish from those. Ooh, some very aesthetic shadows in this shot. Anyway, the first title sent along is called Demios Jukebox. This is a puzzle game for the original Game Boy, and as you go through and unlock puzzles, it lets you listen to chiptune music that Rob produced himself. There's also a download built into this, so you can get the entire soundtrack if you want. I always like it when you start to get bonus free downloadable content with titles. We're so used to paying for extra stuff that it's just a really nice bonus when some additional freebies are thrown in. The second one is called Roxos, and this is an interesting concept to me. Original Game Boy hardware doesn't really run its own operating system, right? The whole idea is you just plug a cartridge in and it runs the code on the cartridge. This explores the idea of, well, what if a Game Boy did have an operating system? So it simulates one. It pretends to be like booting up like a computer would. You've got a pointer on screen that you can move around with the D-pad and then click on things to activate them. There's three main functions built into this. First is a music player, so you can listen to more chiptunes that Rob created. But there's also a photo player. There's a few built-in photos you can kind of scroll through, and then also a couple of game demos. There's also some other little hidden bits here and there that I don't really want to spoil, but it's a really interesting concept to me of, just what if during its time the Game Boy was a lot closer to something like a PDA than just this simple game playing device. The last title is called Spacex, and it's perhaps the most compelling. This is a Game Boy Color game. It's an RPG, and the story is kind of your typical, you need to defeat the evil empire conglomerate type of situation. But beyond just being an RPG, there's also some platformer and scrolling shooter elements to it. It feels like a pretty complete game. There's a lot of the world to walk around and explore. One thing that I did find kind of curious is at the beginning, there's a disclaimer saying, all the characters are fictional and all that, but the title of the game is Spacex. The protagonist is named Elon, and if you look during some of the cutscenes at a close-up of what Elon looks like, let's just say I'm pretty sure Rob is a fan of a certain famous person. Regardless, this could have a decent amount of playability to it, and I'm interested in exploring the storyline a little bit further on my own time. Ooh, more aesthetic shadows. In addition to games, he also passed along some of his Game Boy Advance video titles. These are basically music videos of his music and other people that he's collaborated with that plays back on the Game Boy Advance. It's been a long time since I've seen anything in this format, My favorite one is probably this one titled Bites of Sound, where he does covers of some other famous video game soundtracks. The video quality is, of course, going to be limited. This was always a fairly compressed format for the Game Boy Advance, but the sound quality is actually really good. And of course, along with all of these, he includes download codes so you can get the original soundtrack. Now, I think it's really neat to see brand new titles like these for consoles that were discontinued decades ago. But it's also gotten me thinking about just the nature of retro gaming in general and where we go forward with it. Obviously, we've been paying a lot of attention to hardware mods, brand new shells, replacement screens, that sort of thing. Stuff that basically makes the actual gaming experience better than it ever was before. But if all you focus on is that hardware, in the end, you just end up with newer ways to play the same old games. I think brand new titles and getting more people into the software side of things is really what's going to help keep pushing retro gaming forwards. And it's not just people like Rob that are doing this. In a previous episode, I talked about how Retro Modding and Incubate Games collaborated on trying to bring back a Game Boy Color game called Infinity that had gotten stalled in development way back around the time when Nintendo launched the Game Boy Advance. And that ended up being a big deal. They ran a Kickstarter campaign for it, and it exceeded all of their goals and expectations. Now Incubate is working on a bunch of other brand new titles for the Game Boy series. I think if we can get more people interested in software development, not just trying to find those random straggler games that got stalled in development way back in the day, but coming up with brand new ideas and titles, that's going to be a great way to get more people involved in retro gaming. And also, I guess, in some ways, help bring a new future to a bunch of hardware that's otherwise stuck in the past. I owe a big thank you to Rob for sending these my way so I can check them out and share them with you. If you're interested, I'll include a link down in the description. If you like this one, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. You can follow me on social media at thisdoesnotcomp. And as always, thanks for watching.